Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 36. I am your host, Alejandro, and this is a very weird episode that's about to happen because this is my second time recording Episode 36. Because just to give a little bit of context, today on September 14, my co host Paul, and my buddy Sebastion, we recorded a reacts to one of the showcases that happened today, the PlayStation State of Play that happened today at my 3 p.m. Central Time. And after doing that, we immediately jumped into recording episode 36, where me, Paul, and Sebastion had a very, very, very long conversation about Starfield, like what we thought about the game, like the things we didn't like and the things that we liked about it. And then afterwards we went and just read a recap about what was announced at both the Nintendo Direct that happened this morning and the PlayStation State of Play. And then we were done, and then when I was about to render, I see that Zoom screwed me over, and it only recorded the first 10 minutes, and then the next 2+ hours completely gone. So because I don't want to leave a week without an episode, and I was not gonna ask Paul like this late, be like, hey, can we re-record this? Because who's gonna, like, I can't ask that from him, and I'm not gonna ask that from Sebastion. I still feel pretty bad that all that amazing conversation is now just lost to the ether. It's just gonna live in our hearts. But yeah, it sucks. Like, this is the first time in 3 years that has happened. Like, I've been using Zoom since we started recording the early episodes on whatchamacallit, back in 2020. And then when we had then we mulliganed those episodes, and then we started in 2021. We still use Zoom, and never in the 3 years that we've done this show has this happened. I know that has happened to other people, that they have lost episodes. I just never thought that would happen to me. But hey, so for people to know now, is like, this can happen if you're like in the podcast room, and then how you react and move forward from that is like completely up to you. But hey, just to at least have an episode go forward there, I am gonna go solo and see how this goes, and I'm hoping this goes good. So yeah, so before like diving more into anything else, I just want to remind everyone that this is the X Bottom Podcast, or gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available in the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. Now would be the time that I would say like, hey, Paul or Sebastion or guest, what have you been playing? And since I'm just here, yeah, I've continued playing Starfield. I had that long conversation about with Sebastion in the last week's episode. What my thoughts were like 40 hours in. I think that was my time, and Sebastion was only 4 hours in. Paul was kind of like in my similar ballpark. I played a little bit more than him. And now that I played a little bit more at basically 66 hours based on my clock that was there, all I can say is that my feelings about it is like, this is a clear game that the objective qualities are at odds with the subjective qualities about this game. Because from an objective point of view, I'm noticing the flaws a little bit more. I said last week that I don't think this game is that great looking. It has great looking moments. I have taken many screenshots. Like that screenshot, like there are moments of real beauty in the skyboxes, and just the fantasy of being able to travel along the space and just enjoying the vistas, and like finally living that dream, the game I've always wanted, a space exploration RPG. I feel like even with its caveats, like the segmented nature of the game, the immense loading times that happen over and over and over and over again when you go into a planet, you go to space, you hyperspace out of space, that can make the game feel smaller than it is. It is still a very grand adventure that takes you into so many places, that even though the procedural generation of planets can make exploring them feel like very samey. It's like, yeah, I'm dropping here. Here is all the different caves that are basically copy paste from other caves, or here's a base that has similar layouts. Here's like some weird anomaly ruins that are similar from other places. It's like, and that thing eventually like exposes the repetitive copy paste nature of like the procedural generation of the 1,000 planets, and that it's a strike against it. Where it wins over is always in the skyboxes. Like, I really absolutely love, like, just nothing beats like the sunrise and being in one of these planets, and also kind of like the magic if you teleport somewhere else in the planet, it may be like dark, while in the other places like light. So it's like, this game is like, I've said it before, I think I said it last week, but I'm gonna reiterate. I think Starfield is a quality of life nightmare. So much quality of life is missing in this game that is just absolutely insane compared to more modern stuff, or things that you're like, man, why couldn't they think about this more? Why couldn't they it seems insane that they wouldn't include a map, which, by the way, this week's episode happened after they put a blog post thanking people. Yeah, it's like, we're so happy for all the 6 million players are playing this game, whether it's on Game Pass or buying on PC or separate, and we're gonna like commit to this game in the long haul. We're gonna commit to improving this game, and one of the best the things that we're taking feedback that we're definitely gonna do is adding a freaking map. The fact that they are actually adding that is like, for all the people that decided to, how can I say this, justify the fact that there's no map in like almost anywhere, and or what there is for maps is like the vaguest of things, and be like, no, they're like encouraging exploration and all that. Is like, if Bethesda's already saying that they're gonna do that map, it's like, that's a big oversight, and just underlining the fact that there's like so many little things that it's insane that even things that used to be in other of their older games like Fallout and Skyrim, like Fallout 4 in this case, like, even though the maps are not the best, at least there was a map in some of like the dungeons that you explore, that you are exploring and things like that. That was like a significant step back. Then now they're gonna add them. So again, it's like, it's this oversize that is just insane, that for a game like with the backing of Microsoft, that was like missing. And then like some of the faction quests that I've been like going through, I feel like Starfield has always been or more like, not just Starfield, like just Bethesda game studio games have been like always living and dying by the quality of their side content, and I feel a lot of those strengths are seen in a lot of the side content, especially in the faction quests. I mentioned last week that I did the Freestar Rangers thread that basically gave me a better ship than the one that you start with, which is absolutely awful, and that was a really cool side quest that really took me very deep, like down a massive rabbit hole. I just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It felt like, oh yeah, this is a quest where you're just gonna investigate some farmers that are getting extorted or harassed by these pirates, and then like hearing this like weird Succession style like period like Ponzi scheme that it was like all orchestrated by like this organization, and you like unearth it and all that. It was like pretty cool, and just a reminder that Bethesda is like are usually one of the best developers, and like just taking you through rabbit holes and like extensive side quest threads that could fill up a normal game, and they just do many of those, and that one was a pretty good one. And then between my recording last week to this week, I completed the Crimson Fleet faction quest, which is basically it becomes Splinter Cell double agent. You become like a double agent for the UC, and you go in and like you infiltrate this group of pirates because you want to take them from the inside, but you start bonding with the pirates, and then they start like seeding this doubt in your mind, and gives you the choice, are you actually gonna keep doing the double agent thing and still play for the UC like the UC SysDev cops that want to take down these pirates, or are you gonna flip the script? Are you gonna like actually become a pirate and gonna start snitching on SysDev into the pirates? And then you start deciding, you can decide playing both sides or just remain a goody two shoeies, and then make your final decision at the end. I think that was a really cool side quest that the day that I finished it, I played it all the way until 2 a.m. and that's how I knew that it was like really engrossing, because if there's one thing that I have been like struggling with Starfield a little bit, is that I really like this game, but at 60 hours in, it's like it's been like a massive swings of highs and lows. Like when I'm really in it, like I'm in it like a game like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom earlier this year, where I would play really late at night, just getting myself lost in the magic of the space exploration, and just like vibing to Bethesda style of like just scouring every environment, grabbing things of value and things like that. But then there are moments where then like the game becomes really boring, and then there are times when I'm like staring at my screen in my ship, and I'm like, what do I want to do right now? And then I just get decision paralysis and then just stop. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, eventually, like, I'm all in, and eventually I'm like, I'm kind of tired of this. It's like, and just for clarity's sake, like, the only Bethesda game studios that I've fully finished before was Fallout 4. I tried Oblivion, I tried Fallout 3, I tried Skyrim, and no matter what would happen, something would happen that I wouldn't be able to finish. Like, Fallout 3 was a victim that I didn't play it in 2008. I played it much later in a borrowed copy, so I didn't get too far. Oblivion, I just played recently on backwards compatibility, so it's like I still have a save, but I still haven't finished it. Skyrim, I was the very unlucky soul that, or the many unlucky souls that actually bought the PS3 version of that damn game, and we all know the stories about Skyrim. Skyrim was a complete broken mess on PS3. Rim lag after an extended save, that happened to me, and it had like a game-breaking quest. I don't remember much of it. It was like I couldn't really advance, and I just like lost interest. And then I played the 360 version when I got a 360 when I was in college, and I have this thing when I restart long games before actually finishing them, it actually feels like a chore. It's very weird. Like, I do like I like replaying games, like, but when I have replayed a game that I fully finished, I've rolled credits, seen it all, it doesn't feel as heavy as trying to go back through parts of the game, parts of a game I haven't finished. It's like a weird psychological hang-up, and that happened to me with Skyrim. So I didn't play much of that 360 version, and then years later, when the special edition for Skyrim came out on PS4 and Xbox One, I got the PS4 version, and I was like, okay, maybe this is gonna be the time where I can finally get to Skyrim. And I only played until you get your first dragon shout, and then I started playing other games because that was also the fall that Titanfall 2 came out, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, all these other, like the fall of 2016, just like distracted me, and then eventually just it fell by the wayside. So I always had that process. That's why I never finished Skyrim. The Fallout 4 was the one that, yes, I got at launch, and I finished it within a month. So that's why I was able to finish it, and I wanted to finish one of those games. So unfortunately that a lot of that game is very unmemorable, even though I liked it. Especially I like that it felt more like a shooter. I barely used bats when I played it. But that was like the only one that I really beat. I never played the DLC. In fact, if you're on PS4, if you remember correctly, like the Far Harbor DLC was broken on PS4. It's like the frame rate was horrible, and it was ironic because the game was really stable just normally as you were playing with the PS4 version. In fact, like if you go to Digital Foundry back then, it's like when they were comparing both versions, like the PS4 version definitely was running better than the Xbox version, which was ironic when the generation before PlayStation was the worst place to play a Bethesda game at that time. Obviously then when Xbox One X came out, like that completely got reshifted, and now like they have FPS boost, so playing a Fallout game, any of the BGS games, especially after post acquisition, it's like you gotta play them on Xbox. Yeah, for hardware it didn't work for me, so that's why I didn't complete it. So I just cooled off heavily on Fallout 4. So I would say I definitely have liked Starfield a little bit more, but it has that same feeling that I do remember of Fallout 4, that there's just something about Bethesda's style of RPG that I respect the wide open nature of their games. And I know a lot of people do, because it feels so on-handholdy in a way that can make people that hate handholdiness in games just like get themselves lost in the world. And I do appreciate that. And in fact, I feel like a game like Tears of the Kingdom this year is like just shutting off the map and just letting kind of like the didactic nature of the world like guide you in it. It's like something super appealing. But there's just something about the wide nature of Starfield in particular that reminds me of a lot of BGS that eventually makes me lose the thread and get bored, and I want to keep continue doing stuff. And some of those highs and lows that happened to me with this game, when I did to Paul's recommendation, I started the Ryujin side quest, which is like you basically enter like a corporate cyberpunk company in Neon. That I was very happy and excited to try that because I heard it was about espionage and all that, and I love stealth in the game. So I was like, I want to see what stealth is kind of like in this game, and there's just something about Starfield that they make it feel a little bit like cyberpunk in some ways, even though it's not that cyberpunk but cleaner. I'm kind of like my friend Zach, who has been on the show before. We in the group chat that I have with him and Paul, like he was mentioning that yeah, he knows that Cyberpunk is technically a better looking game in fidelity and how it runs and all of that, but it's so noisy in its design that then I was like, then he was like, I much prefer like something a little bit more simple and clean, and that's kind of like the advantage of Starfield's graphic style. That even though it's not the greatest looking game, I think the art style at least makes it look nice enough and clean enough that is kind of appealing on its own. And I kind of wanted to dive in more into that aesthetic in the Ryujin quest, and that was a quest where the idea was cool, but the first 2/3 of that quest was so annoying because my buddy Sebastion has been like a big stickler about this game's quality of life, as something that I actually do agree with him. Especially his big sticking point is the fact that unlike a game like Cyberpunk, where you complete a quest and you can get a phone call and just like complete the quest with like the quest giver through the phone, and then that gives you XP and all that, this game does a lot of, okay, go all the way back to where the quest giver is. And then it's like, eventually when you keep doing that, it's like it can get really annoying, because it's like, did that really need to be in this game like that? Especially with a game so futuristic like Starfield, where you would expect for them to be like intercommunicators. So I understood that criticism, but doing the Ryujin quest where it was like, go do something quick, like a quick stealth sequence of infiltrate this building, maybe don't let yourself be seen, and like activate this computer with like a digicell and come back to me. Like, you do a lot of that so often that was the moment where I was feeling it. But the moment that really unraveled for me in that side quest was, there is a moment where they're like, okay, now you're gonna do like a full-on Dishonored style or Thief style like stealth sequence, infiltrating the Ryujin headquarters or just trying to unearth a mole. And the problem of doing that is that if you didn't spec in your skill tree in the stealth perk, that in order to get that you have to get like a couple sneak attacks, and if you have a skill point, that's how you can activate it. If you don't at least get it at least 2 or 3/4 of the way, the stealth of this game is absolutely terrible, awful. Like, even though I've seen a video of people actually doing great stealth with it, but that's if you complete the perks for stealth. And that's just insane, absolutely insane, because it's like, it shouldn't like they should have a counter over the fact that since the game's also very wide open, doesn't really guide you through a lot of their systems and all that, that if they want to follow that faction quest, the fact that it doesn't tell you ahead of time that you're gonna do like a full-on stealth section, that if you didn't like at least put a couple of your perk points into the stealth system, like you're gonna have enemies that are like not even looking at you see you somehow. It's a stealth system based on like how often you're moving sometimes, and it's like, so the rules are inconsistent, that it was like really unraveling what was a really cool idea of a side quest line. And then talking with my friend Duncan, where they were telling me about, oh yeah, I got all the stealth perks, like all the 4 of them complete, and basically people barely see me. I would have to shoot them to be able to see it. So it feels like stealth is broken both ways. So like, if you haven't invested at all in stealth, everyone's just gonna see you automatically, which sucks. But then if you like fully invest in that, then you become like a ninja. It would feel like if you were playing Starfield with command prompts and enabling a command prompt to be like, yeah, don't let enemies see me. That apparently that's how broken it can get. At least I know there's a way to counteract that, but it's unfortunate that I learned about that after the fact. And it took me so long, especially that part of the side quest where I wanted to do so meticulously. I wanted to be like be in good standing with Ryujin, because if you got seen, you needed to pay like a fine and all that. And I wanted to see what it was like to do like a clean run of this quest, and it took forever, as I was so annoying. And then finally it ends with like, you have to go infiltrate another building over at New Atlantis to retrieve like a project or something, insert some things in like computer, if I remember correctly. And the design of that building was even more annoying, that the Ryuji HQ from earlier in that side quest, that I just said, F it. I'm just gonna grab my disruptor, I'm gonna let them see me, just gonna disrupt everyone. And when I completed that, I'm going back to my quest giver. I just got basically the equivalent of like a slap in the wrist, but not much of a consequence for not having done it all stealth. That then it makes me wonder, it's like, would it have been better just to just pay maybe a bounty for Ryujin, and that's instead of like breaking my mind. It's like, again, it's like there's so many weird quirks about the open design of this game that makes me love it in parts, but also made me hate it. And however, despite all some of that negativity, I have to give the main quest its props. I don't remember in the other BGS games that I played where I would play like a main quest and then I would have like a really cool moment story-wise that I would actually jolt me back in excitement. I remember around the time when I was gonna record last week, because I had just spent doing a bunch of like the same menial go to this planet to find a disruption so you can find one of the powers that you get from the Starborn, that I was like, I feel like I kind of lost steam with this game now. But when you keep doing just main quests, some really cool stuff happens. The high price to pay quest line was like a huge turning point for me, because I made like a big decision that made me lose permanently a one of my a squad mate. That it makes me wonder if what would have happened if I made a different decision, but that decision was then reflected in a much later quest, that it makes me really curious to hear what decisions other people made in other quests, and to see if that specific moment with the Starborn happens to them. And that was moment. And this game is all about the multiverse, by the way, just so for people to know kind of like where this is kind of leaning into. There's like infinite universes and like vast galaxies and things like that. And I'm a sucker for multiverse. Obviously, Marvel right now has kind of driven the freaking multiverse concept into the ground, but outside comic book context, like I'm a sucker for alternate realities. I'm a sucker for time travel. I'm a sucker for multiverse concepts, because I think that's just so inherently cool, and just for storytelling is like so wide open about the insane possibilities that can happen, that it feels like the main story of Starfield is really leaning towards that. And I tell you, people, if you're playing Starfield and you're feeling deflated by whatever you're doing, do a main quest. Just follow a main quest. I feel it does enough to fill up the tank and re-energize it in case you're feeling a little down. And when I'm mixing some of that with some of the better side quests of the game and all that, this is still a game that I still stand strong in. That I see reviews like the IGN and GameSpot that gave it a 7, and I'm like, I don't 100% disagree with that, but how I'm enjoying the game despite my problems with it definitely feels more like a 9. So that's why I'm still kind of like in that. I think if I would review this, I would still give it like an 8 out of 10 personally. But I have also been enjoying the hilarious discourse of a lot of the Xbox fans that declared this game great, as like this is gonna be a defining point of the generation, like the game of the generation, and the caliber of Elden Ring and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and things like that. And I listened to the review process, seeing them like completely go into bouts of diarrhea over its further declining Metacritic score, which is currently, at least on Xbox, is at an 83, on PC is at an 87. Again, just for the people that care too much about reviews instead of like their own opinion. It has just been funny, them trying to twist themselves into gymnastics. And I will say, and also I do enjoy the schadenfreude of the people that criticize a bunch of games from the Sony side. Obviously, it's not that I want to carry so much water over the Sony side, but hey, the same people that are like, oh, Final Fantasy 16 got an 87, or Horizon Forbidden West got an 88, or like, it's like all these games except God of War Ragnarok are in the high 80s. It's like, what a failure, huh? It's like those same people then trying to justify an 83 has been just funny. But again, it's like that's what happens when you just focus a little too much on what official reviewers have to say. So that has been a funny kind of schadenfreude to see that. But hey, this game is a success. Like, is it the critical success that Microsoft probably wanted, that may have guaranteed that it may guarantee like they go into like a thing like the Game Awards or the DICE Awards and things like they're gonna win Game of the Year awards and all that? I don't think so, but it's a success nonetheless. 6 million players this early. Phil Spencer had said that he wanted Starfield to be the most played Bethesda Game Studios game ever, and a lot of people were like, if you wanted to do that, you should have also put it on PlayStation. But as an exclusive, they were able to still make this an event, and to give credit to a lot of people genuinely like this game. Hey, I like this game. Or some people absolutely adore it. For some, this is their game of the year, and more power to them. Like, for a little bit, before last week's recording, like in the early hours when I was like so enveloped in the magic of space exploration, and after the early hours of the super rough onboarding of this game, I was like, is this like my second favorite game after Final Fantasy 16 this year? I feel much lower on it now that I played a little bit more, and I've had so many of those moments where like I'm not feeling like playing today, I'm just gonna watch TV or do something else, that I feel a little lesser on it. But I also understand for people that can't overlook a lot of the quality of life issues of this game, and still like come out really enjoying it. Again, it's all subjective, people. Every viewer's opinion shouldn't be more important than our own opinion. If you're really loving Starfield, it's like I don't begrudge you loving it. It's like, I really like it. It's still, even if it's not gonna be high up there, I don't imagine this is not gonna make my top 10. Is it gonna win Game of the Year? I don't really care. I think I care more about the fact that this is a really good, at least a good return to form for Bethesda. Let's not forget that they got a massive reputational tanking with Fallout 76, a game they didn't 100% make. It was another team within Bethesda that made that game, but they still took the fall on that, and that hurt their reputation. On top of the fact that Fallout 4 was like the moment one of their games was not like critically super well, like super praised like their game before. Like, I mean, Skyrim, well, no, Skyrim was one of the freaking biggest games ever. Still to this day, 60 million units sold. Like, that game is just that massive, and it was such a tide changer back in 2011. Let's not mince words. It's like, people, that was a Game of the Year 2011. So even with a broken PS3 version, it's like it's still, people didn't mind giving Game of the Year just based on the 360 and PC versions back in 2011. So it's like this was that kind of team, and I feel their games have remained, like, at least their strengths have remained the same. Of course, in a year where we got a game even like Baldur's Gate 3, I haven't played that, but I've heard so much anecdotal evidence of how many people have been floored by how good it is as an RPG, and the complexity of the decision making and all of that. That a Bethesda style of RPG, especially one like this that in some ways have taken steps backwards from the previous games, but leaps forward in like the scale of what they can execute, and especially some of the things that I've heard from New Game Plus, which is kind of insane that it's that malleable of an experience from what I heard. It feels a little different, but I've always said that there's also something very cozy about Starfield, that even though it feels old, it's still something that overall I still really enjoy. I hate that losing the discussion I had with Sebastion and Paul. We had really good discussions about the merits of this game, and now that is lost. But just for people to know, like, everyone likes this game. I'm sad that you won't hear Paul's opinions about this game maybe until like next week, until he's gone farther in. I feel like Paul really likes this game despite its problems. Sebastian's a little bit more of a stickler about its objective qualities, but overall it's like we're still all say that this is a really good game. I still stand by that, and I still definitely want to see it through. I definitely want to see it through quicker now that previews for Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty have come out and are sounding pretty great. Like, I still haven't fully played Cyberpunk, knowing that the update 2.0 is just gonna overhaul so much. I feel like I did good on waiting. I can't wait to like experience that, and I feel like Cyberpunk strength as an RPG are just gonna be so much different from what I expect from like something like Starfield that I'll still enjoy getting to play it. But yeah, hopefully next week I will have it beaten, and maybe I'll have further opinions on it, and then you'll get to hear Paul's opinions of it. And I will have to definitely remind Paul that he will have to say his opinions like it was his first time saying it. I feel really bad. It's like, I'm still so frustrated that we lost that original version of episode 36, but them's the breaks. So now we're moving to what would be press X for some news, but this is not really news. It's just basically a recap of the Nintendo Direct and Final Fantasy and the PlayStation State of Play that happened today, fortuitously in recording day. So the morning started with the Nintendo Direct. It was like a 40-minute Direct, the first one since the last one that they made on June. And my thoughts on it before reading the games, I feel like it is very clear that now we're in the wind down phase of the Switch. If that wasn't clear to you and with the June Direct post Tears of the Kingdom, it is clear now. It's like, I'll say this as someone that has followed Nintendo all these years, and with only the Wii U being like the only system that I only saw like from afar, but I still got a gist of what was happening. Is like, this is the first time I've seen Nintendo really put a lot of weight and support, even if it's not the biggest bangers. They're at least putting out games, absolutely putting out games that, at least for people that are just like engaged in that ecosystem, as we wait for the inevitable Switch 2, which of course it's going to happen. We heard that they're aiming for like late 2024 for that to happen. Now it's like at the very least, there's things coming out, even though they're like remakes and all of that. That if you want things to play on the Nintendo Switch, their stuff is still a buffet. And what's about a buffet? Not everything's gonna be for you, but you're gonna find a few things. I'm not a big Nintendo. I like Nintendo a lot. You probably read like you can go read my Zelda review where I gave it a 10 out of 10. I definitely don't feel as strongly as I did when I was playing, especially with extraneous shit like what was happening with the patent stuff and all that, and me finding more enjoyment out of other games than that came after. Even though I still like feel like the game design of Tears of the Kingdom is like an achievement in game design still to this day. I still like Nintendo a lot, but it's not like I like everything that they do. But it was still, I found a few things that like lifted my eyebrows in this one, even though it wasn't like a huge, it wasn't a mind-blowing direct. It's like, to me, the mind-blowing direct was the one in February where I freaked out over Metroid Remastered and GBA making a combat, like GBA becoming a thing in it and giving me Metroid Fusion finally in a modern hardware. The bastards still refuse to give me my Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, but the fact that they just keep giving more and more GameCube games is like, they're just working their way up. It's so funny. It's like, it would shock me if these games never come out, but I just feel like they're just gonna save them as the best for last. It would be hilarious. But yeah, now let me like just as a recap of the things that were announced at the Nintendo Direct. The Nintendo Direct started with Splatoon 3 Side Order Expansion Pass, which from what I understand is like the second expansion from for Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3 was a big hit when it came out. I think it was last year, if I remember correctly. Yes, it was in September. I remember now. And that one is coming in spring 2024. Then, if you ever played Mario vs. Donkey Kong on the Game Boy Advance, I think it was, they announced basically a remake of that, a 2D remake of that for coming to the Switch on February 16, 2024, and it also includes local co-op. If you like Mario vs. Donkey Kong, you'll get to play that on the Nintendo Switch. Then we got another look at Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, the side-scrolling Prince of Persia game from Ubisoft that's coming out on January 18th, made by the Rayman Legends and Origins team. This game is still looking absolutely phenomenal. A lot of people that played it at Summer Game Fest had really positive things to say. My buddy Sebastion played this at PAX. He loved it. I love Prince of Persia a lot. I'm just so glad that Prince of Persia at least has some sort of presence again. And I just hope it does well, because it's just been too dormant of a franchise. Like, remember, people, the last Prince of Persia we got was Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands in 2010, and then we got the remasters, the Sands of Time trilogy in 2011. So Prince of Persia has been long dormant after Assassin's Creed just stormed into the scene. So I really hope it does well, especially because Ubisoft needs wins. So Horizon Chase 2, a racing game, was announced to be shadow dropping the same day. It comes from Epic Games. And then we got this game called Super Crazy Rhythm Castle out on November 14th. It looked like a dungeon crawler, like a top-down dungeon crawler. Very cute looking, not my kind of game though. So then we got Spionia Operation Memories from Namco Bandai. It feels like an RPG with a little bit of how can I say this? I was just trying to remember some of the images of what I saw for that one. It's like a little bit of drama. I was gonna say court drama, but then you see people playing like blackjack in that one. That is out next year. So it's like the cool thing about the Nintendo Switch is if you like quirky RPGs, that's your system. So I feel like now, especially this year, with my finally fully falling in love with Final Fantasy, especially old school turn-based Final Fantasy, I feel like I have more of an open mind towards turn-based. When before I used to be like, screw turn-based, I don't like turn-based. So I'm just glad that it's still like people are getting fed in that genre in the Switch. And speaking of RPGs, we got another look at Super Mario RPG, which was revealed earlier this year at the Nintendo Direct from June. The remake from the SNES Super Mario RPG. It still looks really cute. I feel like right now November is feeling very vacant from like big releases. I can only think of, for at least from my tilt, I only think of Modern Warfare 3. So this release in November makes it feel like a game that I would give it more of a chance than I would have otherwise. So yep, still want to see how that turns out. I've heard really great things about Super Mario RPG. Then we got another code, 2 Memories, which is included also with another code R, which is like a collection of like interesting Nintendo DS games, from what I understood, that has like a very The character has a big Life is Strange vibes. If you see that, like if you've ever seen that, if you see the trailer, you're gonna get that Life is Strange thing vibe. And that is coming on January 19th. And they made a big deal that the sequel to this game, I think it's Another Code R, if I'm not mistaken, never came to the Wii but never made it to the West. So this is the first time that this is coming in, so it's technically like a new game, even though it's like an old game. That's coming out on January 19th. So then the Peach game that was teased in the June Direct finally got a name. It's called Princess Peach Showtime, and it's basically Peach doing some weird stuff at like a theater. I will say this, like, it actually looks pretty ingenious in some of the things that they're doing, especially seeing what Peach is doing. It's interesting seeing it this way instead of just like a normal platformer from what I'm used to from Princess Peach. It gives her a little bit more, how can I say this? It gives her a little bit more agency and for her to be just more than a princess. And that's coming out on March 22nd. Then, for people that know Square Enix's Saga RPGs, they announced Saga Emerald Beyond, another turn-based RPG in the Saga series, coming out in 2024. Then, for fans of old school Tomb Raiders, the PS1 Tomb Raider games, of old school Lara Croft, those 3 games are coming back in remastered form. I think it's 4 of them, like The Last Temptation, I think was or The Last Revelation was the name of one. I don't know if that's 3. I think I only played a few of them, like, and I think I owned The Last Revelation. I lost that disc eventually. I did play the demo of Tomb Raider 1, the one with the dinosaur. So I think it's those games. It definitely has like they still look old, but the character models are updated, and they're gonna be and they come with expansions and secret levels, and it's out on February 14th. So I have always wanted to be. I like the Tomb Raider reboots. I played a few of the in-between games that happened, kind of like Angel of Darkness, Legends, and all of that. Never finished them, and Underworld. But I've always been of the mindset of like, yeah, it would be interesting to go back to those old ones and see how they hold up. This will be like, depending on the price, this would be like an interesting way to experience. And I also wonder if they're gonna update the character model of Lara Croft in her fitness outfit. I wanted, because that's the people are definitely have opinions about that. Let's just say. So moving on from that, we got another look at Detective Pikachu Returns. The sequel to Detective Pikachu was announced so many years ago and then re-emerged at the Nintendo Direct this June. That's still coming out on October 6th. This is not my kind of game, but I can't wait to hear what people think of that one. And I want to see if it's as broken as Scarlet and Violet earlier last year. So a little bit of a water break there. So then another thing that was announced was Trombone Champ. This very stupid game about playing a trombone that uses gyro controls and IR motion camera from the right Joy-Con of the Switch. So think about like Guitar Hero by like playing a trombone. I don't know who this is for, but it's apparently out today. I haven't seen the price. It would be hilarious if it's expensive. Absolutely hilarious. And then we got Battle Crush, a free-to-play battle royale top-down thing that's coming to the Switch next spring. Then we got War Tales, which is kind of like a strategy top-down looking game that they made a point of saying that it's like launching console exclusive on the Switch first. And then one game that I did pop up because this is a game very near and dear to my heart and also my dad, Contra. Operation Galuga, reimagining of, I think, the original Contra, if I'm not mistaken. So it's basically a remake made by Way Forward and is coming to Switch on early 2024. I'm just glad that we're getting another proper Contra game that's like side-scroller instead of like that weird Contra game that Konami put out in like 2019 that was horrible. So, which apparently is gonna be like included in PlayStation Extra if you're in that subscription service tier. So maybe it's gotten better. I've just heard so many horrible things about it, but I'm gonna try for myself to see if it was as bad as people were saying. Then there's this game from Atlas and Vanillaware called Unicorn Overlord coming on March 8th that seems like a turn-based strategy RPG with like the Vanillaware style art style, which is so beautiful looking. Since I didn't do a react for the Nintendo Direct, but I was chatting with Paul about it during it, he was mentioning something like, why does the games with the best art styles have like the most boring gameplay? And what's funny is that before this year I would have said the same thing, but my newfound renaissance love of the turn-based makes me feel like I could be more open to this game when it comes out on March 8th next year. So It was definitely the best looking announcement of the Nintendo Direct. Then after Unicorn Overlord, we got Luigi's Mansion 2, their HD remake of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. From, I think that's what it was called, or at least the 3DS Luigi's Mansion. So, and also kind of what I was chatting with Paul about it is Luigi's Mansion 2 definitely feel like a more varied game than Luigi's Mansion 3. So I'm kind of glad that it has a new life. Like, it's going to exist next to Luigi's Mansion 3. And this also makes me hopeful that then Luigi's Mansion 1 also makes it to the Switch. Because, again, people, Nintendo just keeps porting all the freaking GameCube games into the Switch. So there are a couple of missions, but it feels like they're just making their way through the list. So having all the 3 Luigi's Mansion games available would be really cool. So it's looking good. That's coming out on summer 2024. And then we got like a little... we went on a little tangent here at this point in the Direct where... the president, the guy that speaks in the Direct, was telling us about the Nintendo Museum that is getting close to getting the construction done, and it's gonna be done by March 2024, and they're gonna house a lot of like old Nintendo stuff in it, like old consoles and all of that, kind of as a preservation thing. I think this is over in Kyoto, so this would be interesting for people that go to Japan, like a place that houses a lot of Nintendo's history. And again, like I've always said, like I am not as enthused by modern Nintendo stuff compared, because it's not the system that I spend most of my time with. But when it comes to nostalgia, nothing beats Nintendo for me. So like a place that's all about the nostalgia, that's gonna be like a really cool place for them, for people to go visit over there in Kyoto whenever that opens. So then we got another tangent about giving us updates on upcoming amiibos. They reiterated the Zelda and Ganondorf Tears of the Kingdom amiibos that they talked about on June. Now that has I don't know if the release date was announced back then, but if not, it was reiterated here. I don't remember much. It was like it's gonna be available on November 3rd. Then some Xenoblade Chronicles 3 amiibos, which is Noah and Mio. That's what I would say. It's like those are gonna be available on June 19th, and then sometime in 2024, they're gonna give the Sora amiibo from Smash. So for people that love Sora and Kingdom Hearts, you'll be able to have that and add it to your toy collection, and next to your Donald and Goofy. Then F-Zero 99 was also announced, and this was people have been like wanting F-Zero to make some sort of comeback, and maybe people just wanted the old F-Zero games, or maybe like a full-on remake. But I did find interesting that they, just like Tetris 99, or I think it was the Mario 99, if I remember correctly, it's like Nintendo just keeps doing this sort of battle royales with like 99 battle royales with their franchises that feel fresh in the oceans of battle royale games. And at least for F-Zero, this is a way to kind of test the waters in an interesting way. And that became available today, so I might just stop the Switch and give it a try, because why not? And it also supports the SNES controller, so if you want to feel like you're playing the F-Zero game from SNES, you got that there. Then we got then Bandle-Tale, a League of Legends story, which is like a top-down League of Legends chibi-looking game. That got a 2024 release date coming to Switch by Riot Forge. Then we got this game called Son of Nunu. If I'm perfectly honest, this was the moment when I went to the bathroom when I was looking at the directs. I don't know exactly what this game is, but that is coming out on November 1st. Then we got another look at WarioWare. I think it was WarioWare Move It. I think this is a port, if I'm not mistaken, or I could be wrong. No, it wasn't. I know there was a WarioWare game for the Wii. I don't know if it's the same one, but if not, it's keeping the same ideas of using like the Wii, like the motion controls of the Joy-Con to simulate the Wiimote. So they just show more of that. They didn't put, at least in the Wario thing that I'm looking at, I don't think they gave a release date, but if it was there, like, hopefully you know it. Ayuden Chronicle, 100 Heroes, the spiritual successor or a game from the creators of Suikoden 1 and 2 that got delayed out of this year, got delayed all the way to April 23rd, 2024. I have heard from many people that I trust that know their JRPGs that Suikoden 1 and Suikoden 2 are like top tier JRPGs on the level of Chrono Trigger and all that are like essential plays to people that love JRPGs. And I know that Suikoden 1 was it both games that are getting remastered that recently got delayed too? Like I know that I could technically try to find those games on the PS3 store, but I mean that would require me having to dig up the damn slow PS3 store to play Suikoden 1 and 2, and especially if I'm getting remakes of those, I might as well play them on the modern hardware. But I know a lot of people that love those games are really excited for Eiyuden Chronicle, so at least this got punted all the way to April 23rd. Then they mentioned something about Eastward Octopia, which it says something about paid DLC that's out this holiday. I think this is one of the many farming games that was announced last year, so probably that. Then War Group 2, sequel to War Group, is out on October 5th for Switch. Dave the Diver, the hit indie game from earlier this year, is making it. I think it's only on Steam currently. It's making its way to the Switch on October 26th. There's a demo available later. I'm definitely gonna try the demo because I heard really good things about Dave the Diver. So then we got another look at Wave 6, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC. I think this is the final wave of the Booster Course Pass that they announced like 2 years ago. Then Among Us, the hit game from 2018 that became big during the pandemic, finally announced that they're doing a new map called The Fungi, and it's going to be out in October. And then to conclude the Nintendo Direct, they are remaking Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, I have vivid memories of this game when I played it back in 2004. This was a birthday gift for me in December, actually. And I freaking love Paper Mario. Paper Mario was so cool, especially this one. This was one of the first turn-based RPGs that I fully completed. It's so sharply written, it's so hilarious. I really love before now, like finally finding my love for Final Fantasy. One thing I did love about Paper Mario style turn-based RPG style is how active it feels. Of like, yeah, just select your things, but then you kind of like press buttons, and if you time them correctly, that's how you can make more damage or like take cover and all that. And it just makes the gameplay feel so dynamic and more active, and instead of just like pressing a command and waiting for things to happen. I like, again, some people really love just pressing a command and watching it play, and hopefully, and luck of the draw, they succeed. I found my love of that playing the Pixel remasters of Final Fantasy this year, so I know there's some appeal to that. But yes, like this is again what I was mentioning, is like they just keep bringing all these damn GameCube games back. So eventually, people, they will wisen up and be like, yeah, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, we're like taking you out of the Wii U purgatory, because they're literally the only Zelda games missing. They have literally everything else. So yeah, that was the Nintendo Direct. I would say like this was solid Nintendo Direct, not like blow my socks off Nintendo Direct, but at least there's things. I know it's not gonna be gathering too much dust for me as I keep playing more of my Xbox and PlayStation, but at least like it still has games, and I'm interested in a few of these. So I would say it's like an okay Direct that worked for me. Then later that day, or later today when I'm recording, we got another State of Play. We haven't gotten a State of Play since February, and that was the one with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which wasn't that good of a State of Play, especially after the ones from 2022 were so much better. So yeah, this was like a 20-minute video recording according to YouTube of this thing, and there were a few games here. I would say that Sony did like they always do. They always like setting the expectations for what it is. They said that this game, this was gonna be focused on third parties and already announced games, and that's exactly what this kind of was. The one thing that I want to give at least some props to this State of Play was the production value of it was like a little bit more similar to like a PlayStation showcase than the normal State of Play, and I think that has to do a lot with the person that they brought in. They finally got like a face, which is like a third-party relations person, to like headline this thing. Like she come in, she introduced the thing, she was like emceeing us through like a couple things, and I tell you, it's like that approach works so much better than the stupid disembodied boys that always make State of Plays feel so corporate. So if that's how the State of Plays are gonna be afterwards, like I think it wouldn't be too much of a problem. I keep saying like the PlayStation Showcase from May was weak for a PlayStation Showcase, but if they had called it a State of Play, it would have been the greatest State of Play there ever was. So Sony definitely right now has a branding problem when it comes to the showcases, because they tried with the State of Plays all since 2019. The 2019 ones was like they were solid, not so remarkable, but it's like I still remember them fondly. I remember the second one they did was when they re-revealed Final Fantasy VII Remake, and teeing it up for the big blowout for the Square Enix E3 2019 press conference. And I remember the one that revealed The Last of Us release date on September that year, and that they coincided it also with the preview coverage. And then I remember the one from December that year that revealed Resident Evil 3. So in 2019, state of plays were good. 2020, they kind of went like they dropped sharply in quality, and then because then it was like they became like deep dives for games. And then they did the big blowout PlayStation showcase where they revealed the PS5 console and all that. And that muddied the waters, because it's like, okay, so if they're calling this a showcase, so is this like the big ticket item, and PlayStation and State of Play are just kind of like, they're just there. And that's kind of what State of Play felt. That for a while they're just like, And I'll say this, everything. It's not that there was many announcements here, but I think this was this felt like a good proof of concept of a better presentation for this kind of things. And if they keep building upon this ones, people are not gonna bulk too much at State of Plays, because people are always like, a State of Plays is like, then I mean, and they're not gonna show much. But some of the two things that I was expecting from this State of Play ended up happening, because they mentioned third parties. There's a big third party exclusive that I'm highly anticipating that ended up showing here, especially because their pre-order went live today. So I was like, coincidence, it's happening today, of course, then it means it's gonna show up here. And to follow on the tradition set by the State of Play that happened last September in 2022, that happened around TGS, which was kind of like around this time last year, almost like to the day. Even though they were showing third-party games and some Japanese stuff and all that, it ended with the launch trailer for God of War Ragnarok, and that's solid. And that was followed pretty soon by that game going gold. So every time they say that, yeah, this is just third parties, it's become very common that even despite them saying that, if they have a previously announced exclusive from first party or second party, is gonna at least show up there, and it also showed up here. So going through some of the things that were announced here at the State of Play, we got this game called Baby Steps, which was it was a very long demo. It was stupid looking, but in a good way, with like humor that worked for me, and had kind of like the Octodad vibes of like this weird character moving around. Something that I mentioned in the reacts that hopefully will go live alongside this episode, where I was with Paul and eventually Sebastion joined, is that this is something that I talked with Sebastion when I did our reacts and on his channel for the PlayStation Showcase. I'm glad that at least Sony is making an effort of showcasing some indies again, because there has always been this concern that after they were so big on indies from like 2013 all the way to at least 2017, they then hard pivoted too hard into first party, like like the big budget blockbuster stuff, that after they were like, yeah, we love indies company, that kind of just fell through the wayside. And at least in the PlayStation Showcase, them showcasing indies again was like, okay, it's like at very least you show that you care. So obviously maybe it's like others are probably doing better with indies. Like, I'm not gonna like affront and not say that I'm not impressed with what Microsoft with ID at Xbox have been doing, especially paired up with Game Pass. Like they have become a better tool for indie discovery and indie proliferation. And now that PlayStation has the extra service that unfortunately already got the price hike for the year prices, it's like at least they had like a way to be able to like showcase some of these games. Obviously Baby Steps was not emphasized enough if it was going to be part of a service, but every time that they do that now, like I know that they have an option to do it. I mean, like Sea of Stars released on PS Extra, and the game is a massive success, even though it was also on Game Pass, and it was also selling. So yeah, Baby Steps is coming in summer 2024. Earlier this month, or was it last month? I don't know. Recently, they had mentioned that Roblox was finally coming to PS4, so in turn also PS5, and I don't think they had announced a release date, and that was announced here. That Roblox, which is this big, like this huge thing that exists there, that is so big, that is not so far up in my vernacular. That was like I think it was already on Xbox, so this is finally come to PlayStation, and they announced that it's also gonna have cross-platform support. I know there's been a lot of interesting creations happening in Roblox, so I want to see how robust that is in the PlayStation side. So, and then We got a PSVR, some PSVR 2 content for fans of Ghostbusters. They announced Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord for PSVR 2 coming on October 26th, so right on time for Halloween. I feel personally, it doesn't look that good, but I mean, that's part for the course for VR for me. Just the idea of like playing like with protons and all of that, it's like, hey, I know some people that bought that super expensive VR unit have been like, they're feeling like that like in typical Sony fashion. It's like it's another piece of hardware that doesn't feel like it's been properly supported. So if that happens or not, at least this is something. I wish it felt better, but hey, it's coming out October 26th. But then if you want something more of higher caliber, the announced PSVR 2 mod of Resident Evil 4 Remake was shown. It looked a lot like what I remember the Village implementation looking like. And they said that it's also coming this winter. When in winter, that puts it from December all the way to February. So sometime there. I would hope in December. But that wasn't the only Resident Evil 4 news there. The Separate Ways Ada side story that got added to the original version of Resident Evil 4 when the extra versions of that game started releasing, like from PS2, the Wii, and all of that, and people like unearthed the whatchamacallit, when they, you know, when people go into the PC files of a PC version, sometimes they find like clues of things that could potentially be added on the files and all that. They saw that Separate Ways had like files with there were Separate Ways files within Resident Evil 4's code for PC. So everyone was like, okay, like let's see how long it takes for them to add that. And they announced that that's coming next week on September 21st, alongside a free Mercenaries update where you can play as Ada Wong and also as Albert Wesker, and you can finally see the full Albert Wesker model in the RE engine now, because Albert Wesker has been suspiciously absent from the remakes currently, and it tees up Resident Evil 5, even though I think Resident Evil 5 still looks relatively good. It doesn't really need a remake unless they just want to do like a systemic remake for like that controls more like this one's. But yeah, Albert Wesker is going to be there. And also, like, since this happened, they announced that this DLC is going to cost $10. So I don't think it's going to be that long, but I have been hankering to go back to Resident Evil 4 because this was one of my favorite games earlier this year. It just feels like it didn't come out this year because this year has just been insane since like from April onwards. But yeah, this came out. This is like, for people that take stock on Metacritic, this is a 93 on Metacritic. So it's like, it's high up there. Alongside Street Fighter, Capcom was just having an amazing year critically, even with the less than stellar reception of Exoprimal. It's like still, Exoprimal wasn't terrible either, so it was still like an interesting idea. So yeah, that's coming out on September 21st. Then we got a new look at Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, showing a little bit more of the gameplay. Obviously, this was already showcased heavily at the Ubisoft Forward from June. This just at the very least, it's like it just confirms to me that yes, this is Ubisoft's Far Cry for 2023. I would argue it feels like at least a fresh look into the Far Cry formula because it's Avatar at the very least, and at least I've always said that, especially with Far Cry 6, I think there's a lot to like about that game, but the setting really bores me because it reminds me so much already of Far Cry 3, and I have a big aversion to Hispanic green places because it just reminds me of home. I'd rather something more exotic like Far Cry 4, like at the Himalayas, and there you can get more exotic than Pandora. So that game is still coming out on December 7th unless it gets like a last minute delay. Avatar's Frontiers of Pandora has December for itself, and thankfully what this means is if you need a game for December, I feel like a Far Cry game, like especially I remember this with Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 was such a cozy game for December 2012, and actually that's what made that game popular, because it was like an actually really good game that came out of nowhere. And you know, whatchamacallit, if this can hit that way for December, I mean, more power to them. So yeah, that's coming out on December 7th, 2023. I'm kind of excited for it. Then Ghost Runner 2, the game that was announced, the sequel to the original Ghost Runner that was announced at the showcase on this past May, we got to see more of the gameplay. It definitely looks like a prettier Ghost Runner from what I remember from the first one, and that game is still scheduled for October if I'm not mistaken, and a demo dropped today. So after I finish recording this, I'm gonna download it and see how it feels, because it's launching in a very crowded month. Then we took a little bit of a detour to show like three new sets of plates and DualSense controllers. So they're doing basically like a platinum style. It's like a sleek, like sleek gold-ish matte style of like covers, like in red, Cold Volcanic Red, and blue, Cobalt Blue. Yeah, the same name as the Flash villain, and sterling silver. So if you want to like your PS5 to feel like $1 million, I definitely feel like that sterling silver feels like that. I'm pretty okay with my current plates, but if this launches at the right price, I don't mind eventually making my digital PS5 look slicker than just the white. That's just there. I did like the black ones, and I have been thinking about getting the black ones, but it's just been like, when you decide between that or buying a game, I'm gonna buy a game. So then after those plates, we got a more extended look at Helldivers 2 gameplay, with more of the HUD and all that. The demo itself had one of those like pre-canned voiceovers over it that was like, seeing it, that reminded me of like when Ubisoft was demoing The Division. As someone that played briefly the original Helldivers and seeing this, definitely this feels like a step up into like more higher budget territory, but it's still not quite super high budget. But hell, the first Helldivers game was really fun, and I would hope that under a new perspective, but still under the same developer, they still are able to scratch the same edge as that original Helldivers. The big thing with this one though is that this was originally announced as coming in 2023, but with no clear release date. Now we know when it's coming out. It's coming out on February 8, 2024, so it cheated itself out of 2023, and I would say smart, because when was this game coming out? Like, where else? And without it getting buried. Was it gonna come out close to Spider-Man? I mean, like, they don't need anything else other than Spider-Man. And speaking of Spider-Man, we got to see a little bit more of the game in action and all that. This is like, Spider-Man 2 has been like such a weird game for me this year, because it's like, in Insomniac I trust, like, let's just not miss words, like they really are carrying the PS5 generation in behind their backs. Like they have, with this game, I think this is gonna be, if I remember correctly, it's they launched immediately with Miles Morales and Spider-Man Remastered, then they followed it within 6 months with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and now 2 years later, now we got Spider-Man 2, and then we got Wolverine. It's like the fact that they will have released 5 games, even though one of them was a remaster and another one was like a smaller game. Just the fact that they have released 5 games where other first party Sony studios haven't even released their first official game. It says a lot about like Insomniac's versatility and just how reliable they are. And let's not forget also that their Spider-Man games, like combined, have sold like 33 million copies with the 2018 and the Miles Morales game. So it's like a lot of people really like these games. And I even tweeted this out recently. I really did love the 2018 game. I have played many Spider-Man games throughout my entire life, all the way from the PS1 generation all the way to this one. I played through many bad ones also. I also played some of the PS3 ones and 360 ones that I felt were better than they got received. I really love Shattered Dimensions. I think the first Amazing Spider-Man is much better. Has a lot of elements that I love from 2018, and that game did it first. So it's like, I know what Spider-Man is, and the 2018 one was just like a better executed version of games that I've played many times before. My excitement for this game has been like neutered a lot for the fact that I feel like 2023 has been the year that my love for Marvel kind of broke. For people that are just tuning in for that, is like I feel like the MCU burned me out. Like Phase 4 and also Phase 5, like the overabundance of shows and the waning quality and just like the excessive amount of content that started to become like homework, and just like the idea of Marvel becoming so pervasive in pop culture was like, it was becoming too tiring, to the fact that then me trying to find excitement for Spider-Man was just like, yes, I know it's gonna be great, but I don't know if I can be generally excited about it, because it's still part of a brand that I'm kind of sick about. But the story trail, and also when the showcase came and went with the first demo, and I was like, I didn't walk out of it like hair blowing excitement. And when I went to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse on June, and immediately like this happens to me a lot, that then when I watch a movie and I know there's like it's within like a similar property, and then I go play the game because I'm kind of like hungering for that kind of IP. I didn't go immediately back to Spider-Man after watching Across the Spider-Verse, and it started making my mind go. It was like, so am I really not excited for this? Am I really that burnt out? To the point that I was like even shit talking it. And then the Comic-Con story trailer, that reminded me, I was like, no, it's like, you may be burned out on Marvel, but this is good Marvel. Like, this version of Spider-Man's really good. So yeah, so it's just like, and the thing that you really loved back then, and I had to be reminded, was the story. And the story trailer gave me glimpses of that, so I definitely want to see that story. Seeing more of this gameplay where I got to see like the expanded open world, like how they're doing the mix and matching of the suit tech between Miles and Peter. And for Paul, he really popped off for like being able to mix and match some of the suits. Like we got to see the Bully Maguire, Raimi symbiote suit from Spider-Man 3 also showed up there, and what they were showing. That they're basically fully embracing the GTA 5 character switching, where both of these characters are going to be living their lives and we can like jump right in. They also did a really interesting showcase for fast travel. That it was a very subtle way to flex the SSD for the PS5. So I think I'm more like when me and Paul did the our most anticipated games for the fall, I put this as my number 2 just by inertia of like what was, no, actually it was my number 3. It was Paul's number 2. I still feel that way. Like that same day, Super Mario Wonder comes out, and I feel like I want to play that first before playing this, since I'm not technically reviewing this game yet. From what I know, but they're Season Gaming. My buddy Eric from there is the one that signed up for that review, but I'm gonna be there just in case something happens and they needed coverage for that game. But yeah, it's like I have no doubts in my mind that this game's gonna be great, and I know Sebastion is absolutely pumped for this game. Paul is too. At least I'm not as pumped as them, but I'm pumped, I think, because I know it's just gonna be a great game. I really hope though that when this game comes out, that this game manages to exceed my expectations. That would feel nice, so that it can justify and kind of like at least make up for my over cynicism towards it. But yeah, it's still coming on October 20th, and what we got here was basically kind of like I imagine if they had done like a place like they used to do the state of play centric game, like centered on a game, they would have done that. And basically we got a little bit of that, but I don't think that's the thing. Like they didn't really show much. I don't think they really need to show much either. It's Spider-Man, it will sell itself. So then Tales of Arise showed up here again, which is so funny because Tales of Arise was it was released back in 2021, people. So it's been like 2 years. 2 years later, they're doing DLC. It's called Beyond the Dawn in November 9th. This was one of the games that last summer me and Paul bought because he hit a nice point of sale, and because I have that arrangement with him where we split the price. I think I was in the middle of my Assassin's Creed obsession that year when this came out. So I was like, I'll eventually get there, and I never played it. So maybe one day, but it's like this year has just been one that those games that I'm like, I'll eventually get to have just fell down by the wayside, because it's just that kind of year. So, but yeah, hey, it's like the DLC coming out on November 9th. Since again, not many ticket items for people that are fans of Tales. Hey, you get more of Tales for November 9th. Honkai Star Rail. This is the JRPG version of like the MiHoYo, all these stupid Chinese gacha games. I would say like I really like the style of this, and it being like turn-based again, like this is finally hitting at a point where if this is also free to play, like another MiHoYo game, I think the Tower of Fantasy, I think this is what it was called, that at least I can give it a try. Like, hey, it's free, like no foul on trying. It's like this is coming on October 11th, 2023. So, well, I have 5. I think I'll be in the middle of reviewing Assassin's Creed Mirage around that time, so we'll see. So yeah, that's coming out there for people that like the MiHoYo verse. So, and then we got another look at Foam Stars, the blatant copy of Splatoon by Square Enix that got revealed at the PlayStation Showcase. But also, surprisingly, this was one of the more positively received games demoed at Summer Game Fest. because people were expecting nothing of it, and people came away really impressed with how fun it is, and how the concept apparently is working for what this game is going for. And I know my buddy Sebastion, he tried this at PAX, and he really enjoyed how quickly he got the vibe of it. And I really hope that this is some sort of win for Square Enix, especially since with the news we got this week that they have lost $2 billion in like market cap, because of the investors are like retiring kind of like their investments and all that, because they don't like how the year went for Square Enix, even though a lot of people are doing stupid clickbait saying that they lost the $2 billion because of Final Fantasy 16. But like the reality is that Square Enix paid the price of so many games underperforming for them, like Marvel's Avengers, which they had to complete the transition over to the Embracer Group at that time, but they still had to like account for a lot of development for that game in 2022, so they lost a lot of money on that. They lost a lot of money for Spoken. They released a shit ton, billion different games on over the past year. There was like the Octopath Traveler 2, Harvestella, like the Starfield Chronicles, Valkyrie Elysium, like so many games that cannibalize each other, that even though like Final Fantasy 16 sold respectably, it still wasn't enough to like offset the money losers throughout that entire year. But clickbait got a clickbait, and they blame it on Final Fantasy 16. The hate boner, especially this idiot called Takashi Mochizuki from Bloomberg, that he has gotten over, especially over PlayStation and everything with Final Fantasy 16, has just been stupid. Like he like title is like, yeah, this, Final Fantasy 16 got mixed reviews, and I'm like, how is an 87 and an 80 Metacritic and an 88 OpenCritic mixed reviews? You know what mixed reviews is? For Spoken, which has like a 63. That is mixed, not that. So Takashi Mochizuki can go fuck himself for all I care. So then we got the closer for the for the state of play, and this could only close one way, especially with the thing that went live earlier that basically underlined it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth got shown here. We got to see more of the game. And I tell you, people, like, having just recently played Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy VII to completion, getting to see so many things that I remember just from that playthrough being represented here, like in the level of fidelity, I feel really excited watching this. It's like this game looks so damn good. Like, it's crazy how much of a fan of Final Fantasy I have become now, especially this year. After I had been just like a moderate Final Fantasy fan that had only really finished 15 and 7 Remake, but I knew about the games, I knew some of the stories and all that. But this is very different when you experience it yourself. Getting to see Gujan, I think it was the place where you do the marching, you had the disguise. Seeing like the place where Red 13 lives, where you're gonna go see Bugengarten, I think was his name. Seeing glimpses of the Nibelheim flashback that is so excellent in the original game. The debut of Kate 6, and looking really furry and so cute how it is here. And also my favorite vampire, Vince Valentine. Oh man, I can't wait. And it's coming out on February 29th, 2024. So it's like one of my early highlights of the year, and I can't wait. And ironically, it's coming. They decided the leap year date would be fitting for this game. So, and also they announced with that if you never bought Remake, the first Remake, they're gonna be selling a twin pack, so you can like get Remake and this game. I don't know what the price will be for that, but you'll be able to do that if you haven't. I highly recommend Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've been like, it's been so tough, especially with Starfield right now, like sucking so much of my oxygen. But it coming in the midst of me playing through all the Final Fantasy games, and I'm on Final Fantasy VIII currently. My temptation to not just immediately jump into Final Fantasy VII Remake again, or even Crisis Core, because after recently finishing Final Fantasy VII, has been really hard. Especially after this, it's gonna be even tougher. But at the very least, I know that if I beat that game, I know I don't have to wait too long to be able to. It's 5 months away, because like October, November, December, January, February, 5 months away for me to experience Rebirth, which we also learned has a collector edition with a massive Sephiroth statue, and That Sephiroth statue, I wonder if it's also 19 inches and people are going to treat themselves to 19 inches of Sephiroth. And another thing that I really love about Rebirth is just how much it covers from the end of Midgar all the way until the reunion from Final Fantasy VII. For people that know about reunions like that, the reunion moment was like the big pivotal moment where the world changes in that game. And I wonder if that's where they're going to end it, or if they're gonna end it a little bit afterwards with, spoiler alert, are we gonna start the third part without Cloud, because Cloud goes and becomes like crazy and comatose, and then like your party is like spread out. In fact, that's the moment that I actually fell in love with Final Fantasy VII in the original, like finally moving away from Cloud a little bit and getting to play as Barret, Tifa, and seeing Sid kind of like taking a center stage at that moment. And like Sid's theme is just amazing, by the way. Freaking love Sid's theme. I would love to hear that. It does make me wonder where the cutoff point is for the third and final entry of this thing, because they announced the 3 parts last year. So oh man, yeah, it's like I'm such a Final Fantasy bitch now. It's like, it's so funny how that happened for me. And I'm committing. I'm gonna finish all those damn games. I'm no longer gonna be a poser. So, and all the mini games, I've seen the Golden Saucer too, like the Chocobo race, the boxing mini game that was also in that game. It's like there's so much from the original that they're including in this thing. Man, playing Remake and playing Rebirth back to back is just gonna be gaming bliss. And they announced that apparently this game has 100 hours of content with all the side stuff. I would say that is like, I'm gonna be a little apprehensive a little bit, because a lot of Final Fantasy 16 side content was very fluffy and filler, and 7 Remake also had that problem too. So maybe that will happen. But they also mentioned a lot of like beast hunts and all that. And now that you're like out in the open world, like seeing the world of Final Fantasy 7 like come alive like that, it's just so, it's so special. Like I get it now. I get why Final Fantasy 7 is so special. It is my second favorite Final Fantasy, though my favorite is 6. I tell you people, I will cry, even as someone that recently played Final Fantasy 6, if that gets the remake treatment too. It's like Final Fantasy 6 was so damn good. The hype was real. I tell you people, if you can, I know the Final Fantasy pixel the pixel remasters altogether is like $75, and you can buy the games individually. Final Fantasy 6 is $18, and Final Fantasy 4 is like $15 if I'm not mistaken. Like I played 1, 4, and 6. I kind of did it the American way, like back in the day. For people that didn't know, for the people that don't know, Final Fantasy 1, 4, and 6 were the only ones released in America originally. And when 4 came to the US, it was just Final Fantasy. It was just called Final Fantasy 2. And then when 6 came to America, it was only called Final Fantasy 3. Eventually, when 2, 3, and 5 from Japan eventually started like proliferating, they rebranded it correctly and all that. But I decided to be like, if I'm gonna play the pixel remasters right now, I'm gonna play it the American way. And I did 1, 4, and 6, and 1 was a little rough, but I enjoyed playing it, especially with the Stranger of Paradise references. But I always say it's the other way around. Like Final Fantasy 1 and 4 know a lot of Stranger of Paradise, because Stranger of Paradise was based on Final Fantasy 1. But me recognizing so much from Stranger of Paradise and playing Final Fantasy 1 was pretty special. Definitely play just a guide for that one. But Final Fantasy 4 and 6 were real special too, and I would love modern remakes of those. Like the story of 4 is amazing, characters are amazing, but the story of 6 also was amazing. Early Final Fantasy is so good. 8 is rough right now. 8 is like, I'm gonna power through. I found some interesting stuff the last time I played before I had to jump into Starfield, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna like ride this Final Fantasy fandom all the way that I can. At least it's so funny, like looking at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now, after it is done, whatever third entry ends up being, I have run out of like my unicorn games, of like the games that you're super excited about, that you're waiting for. Like God of War Ragnarok was one of those, and that already came and went. Spider-Man used to be like, again, like I'm very conflicted with like my feelings with Spider-Man. I know it's just gonna be great and all that, but it's like, yeah, this Final Fantasy VII Remake will be like one of the last. Death Stranding 2 would be another one of those like far off dream kind of games, so like kind of like keep me with anticipation. We're reaching the point where we gotta get new IP, so I can kind of start like building that anticipation again. And I feel like the 7 Remake project is like the last one for me for a while before I kind of become a little bit more like, okay, let's see what games I'm gonna keep receiving. So February 29 for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I can't wait. I was talking with my friend Alberto. It's like, this is so much earlier than I was expecting, but I'll take it. I'll take my Rebirth early in the year. No other game matters for me in 2024 right now until I get to hear more. So that ends what would have been Press X for some news. And now I'm going to read you the game releases for the week of September 17th to September 23rd, 2023. This would be what either Sebastion or Paul would read. Now I'll read it. So Gloomhaven comes to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch on September 18th. Lies of P also comes to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Mac on September 19th. Apparently, I think there is an expensive version where you can start playing that game now, if I'm not mistaken. That game reviewed really well, and a lot of people are saying that it delivers on the Bloodborne fantasy. I'm going to wait until the 19th to play it. I'm going to try it on Game Pass. I tried the demo during Summer Game Fest. I enjoyed a little bit what I was playing, but I was just playing other stuff, so I didn't really dive deep into it. So I'm hoping the Xbox Series S version is good at least. Mortal Kombat 1, that's another game that has an expensive edition that the early access opened today. Not many reviews have come out, but yeah, that comes to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC on either today for early access or September 19th. My friend Elu over at Season Gaming is currently playing and reviewing it, so I can't wait to hear more of his thoughts. He's the fighting guy for our site. So You Suck at Parking also comes to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch on September 19th. That is an amazing name for that game. Party Animals comes to Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC on September 20th. And that, I think it's like a party game, is in the game. And I wonder if it's also on Game Pass, because it's just on Xbox. Usually these games that only come to Xbox, kind of like you expect them to come to Game Pass, so maybe it's that, but I could be wrong. Days of Doom, what is this before I read that? Days of Doom, what kind of game is this? Apparently looking up, it's a strategy game by Atari developer Sneaky Box that's coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on September 21st. And that same day, you also get Payday 3 coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, and that's also on Game Pass. And also that same day, the thing that got announced today, the Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways DLC, which is $9.99, and on top of the Mercenaries update, comes to also to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, and PC on September 21st. From this game, I'm definitely gonna try Lies of P. I'm gonna try Payday 3 just because they're in Game Pass. I would be stupid not to try them. I know Paul loves Payday, like the Payday series, and I'm hoping Payday 3 lives up to what he would like, and I would love to play with him. Mortal Kombat 1, I really wanted to buy it. We'll see if I can convince him to do the arrangement for that one, depending on how it reviews. I really love the story mode. I've always said that no one does story modes better than NetherRealm. From Mortal Kombat 9, the first Injustice, Mortal Kombat X, Injustice 2, and Mortal Kombat 11. The story modes are so great. Replaying all of them this year reminded me of that. So I expect nothing less, and I heard that Mortal Kombat 1's story mode is even better than Mortal Kombat 11, which is insane because Mortal Kombat 11 and its Aftermath DLC was so damn good. So they just don't miss in that. I wonder how the rest of that package will go, but I'm in for that thing for the story mode. If I can convince Paul to buy it now or not, I wouldn't mind if eventually it gets like a Black Friday sale and I get it then. But we'll see. And Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways DLC, I have been wanting a reason to revisit this game. I've been like talking with Paul about it. It's like right now he's currently playing Jedi Survivor. I saw him playing that recently got a patch that makes it 60. The performance mode actually work like a performance mode. Man, if they had only held that game 6 months and it could have launched like that, but it could have gotten very, like, I don't know. Yeah, Jedi Survivor is just a victim of timing. It's so sad because it's like it just got absolutely buried. He's currently playing that, and he's saying that it's glitchier than he remembers, which doesn't surprise me because I had my friend Alberto recently also play and finish Jedi Survivor before he dove into Final Fantasy 16, and he was having a very buggy time with the game that I don't remember being that buggy when I played it at launch. even though that game, even though I did see a lot of the performance issues of that game. I had the game crash on me twice. The performance mode was really, really rough. One of the worst performance modes I've ever seen in a game. I played that game in quality mode and it was fine. It had a few frame rate drops here and there, and like with close to water or close to like smoke, but it performed decently in the quality mode. I really enjoyed that game. I feel I overrated it a little bit. I gave it a 9.5 over at Season Gaming, but I was feeling pretty high. But if I were to review it now, I think I would give it like a 9 still. I still love that game. But we talked with Paul, it's like, because some of these games that came out so early, we want to like maybe do another run of them just to see if we feel the same way about those games. Especially with so much good stuff that came out this year. I feel Resident Evil 4 is in that bucket, and Separate Ways gives me that reason to replay it, because I adore Resident Evil 4. I love the original version, I love this one. Both versions are great. Can't wait to see how Separate Ways works for this thing. It been $10, I feel it's gonna be rather short. The $20 Shadows of Rose Village DLC from last year also wasn't that long, so again, at least it would give me another reason to play one of my favorite games this year. So, and with that, people, this experimental one-man show comes to an end. I'll forever remain salty over the idea that I don't understand what the fuck happened. Like, I just don't know. Like, why did I lose 2 hours of show when that has never happened to me? But hey, this was also interesting doing a solo thing, because I know that sometimes Paul, like last week, he had like a family emergency, so he couldn't do last week's show, but I was able to get Sebastion to cover for him. I know there will be a time where I won't have either of them or anyone to do the show with me. So if it means that if I don't want to miss an episode, I'm gonna do it solo by myself, I can't wait to hear how this one turns out. So it sucks that it happened. Like, man, I tell you, people, it's like the conversation I had with Sebastion and Paul with Starfield is one of our better game discussions, and losing it pains me to my soul. But hey, you get your episode, so that's it for me for today. So you can find me, yeah, where can you find me? You can find me on the Twitters at _Drosegovia, or X, I'll always call it Twitter. You can find me on Threads and Instagram at Alejandro Segovia 93, and you can find me my written content currently at least reviews and such at seasongaming.com. I think I'm not gonna make a promise, because I don't know if we're still gonna review Starfield over at Season Gaming. It feels like I'm the only one that is getting close to the end compared to everyone else that's playing it over there at the site. And since we didn't get code, there's like no obligation to do that. So I'm gonna ask them if like, hey, I could write a review if I end up finishing it. Obviously, it's not my forte. I know that some of the people on the staff have more experience with that game, but mine could be like an experience of someone that really doesn't has only vibe with Fallout. Well, it's like I vibe with this game, but I only finished Fallout 4. I'm a little bit more mixed. Like, so my Bethesda Game Studios story history is a little bit more iffy, but if for some reason it's like that doesn't end up happening, I may end up writing something for Critical Corner, which is where you can find some of my other stuff. The last thing I wrote over at Critical Corner was my review for God of War Ragnarok, where I gave it a 95 in my scale. I need to replay. By the way, yeah, that's another game that I would love to replay by the time of its anniversary, because for people that have been listening to that show, I have had a very major face turn with that game, where I don't feel as high as I felt like when we recorded that spoiler cast. And I don't know if it's just been the environment I've been currently that doesn't feel as highly on that one, so maybe that has been infecting me, or it's just been my overall feelings with Sony, or it's just the fact that, again, like people I've heard told this story before about God of War 2018 being a game that got me out of such a heavy funk in 2018 when I felt I was gonna fall out of gaming, and that was a game that rescued me. So I may have like overvalued how great it was, but it was like that. That's why I always remember. And Ragnarok coming in at a time where I'm not even feeling that. That's why maybe I was feeling that, but we'll see. Like, I would love to revisit it, because I reading that review is like, yeah, I did feel high back then. Like, it's just, it hasn't stuck with me like it did. But hey, a conversation for another time. But until that happens, I just want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you're in one of your podcast services of choice, if you feel so inclined in your heart, give us a review. Help us in the algorithm. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell me if like going solo would be something that you wouldn't mind in case. And I feel like at least getting through this episode, I know I can do it. So at the very least, I know that I don't have to fully rely. I've always been fearful of being able to do like a solo episode, to me personally, but hey, I was able to do it. I know some other people are experts at just doing solo content, so maybe that way I can flex those kind of muscles. But hey, if you got it here until here, thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Hopefully nothing will happen again and I get to lose content. And until that happens, people, enjoy playing some games. We're halfway through the month. Stay healthy. The world's kind of looking kind of crazy with this weird weather is happening all around. Do some exercise, touch some grass, play some games, and remember, press X to play. Hasta la vista, babies.